I just felt like I couldn't do it, like for some reason. Like I was like they all got it, but every time I do it, like it just won't work. Like it doesn't work for me or whatever. And then eventually, like I would have just like done it and like made a trade on probably a practice account, and I'd be like, okay, it worked, right? Like this is new. Like usually it's like, oh, okay, I think it's gonna go up, so let me do down because I'm always wrong or whatever. You know what I'm saying?
Longtime fans of the show should be familiar with the lender formerly known as Sue Pullen, and I'm pleased to announce that she's back, fresh off a rebrand and ready to help as Sue Mackey. Sue is a certified mortgage advisor at Fairway Independent Mortgage, an equal housing lender who focuses on finding the right product for you and your needs. She has over 20 years of experience helping thousands of homeowners. Whether it's purchasing, refinancing, or even a reverse mortgage, Sue will help. Sue's licensed in 36 states now, so reach out and let Sue Mackey it happen for you. The best way to reach her is just give her a call at 520-977-7904 or in an email, spullen@fairwaymc.com. Fairway Independent Mortgage has an MLS number of 2289. Sue Mackey has an MLS number of 206048. That email again, spullen@fairwaymc.com, and that phone number is 520-977-7904. Shoot Sue an email and let her know she needs to update that address. Disclaimer time. This is where I tell everyone to lighten up. It's just a podcast. Trading is like that roller coaster at the amusement park. Thrilling, unpredictable, and potentially stomach-churning. What works for one person might leave another clutching their hat in the wind. Our hosts and guests, they're awesome, knowledgeable, full of insights, but we're not financial advisors. So don't rush to make any investment decisions based solely on our banter. Always consult with a professional or do your own research. Plus, let's face it, we like to have fun, laugh, enjoy the trading ride together. It's all in the name of good podcasting fun. So remember, take it easy, don't bet the farm, and keep your seatbelts on at all times. Thank you for listening. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the China Shop, home of the Band of Traders podcast. My name's Kyle, and joining us tonight, we've got not only our honorary CEO, Flary, we've also got a new face joining us in the shop tonight. Flary, you want to tell us about your friend?
Yeah, we call him the Kid. So we met through a relationship that I have with a local high school where I was doing like some corporate mentorship stuff, more on the culinary side and stuff like that. But one of the instructors reached out and said, "Hey, we've got a student that is really interested in trading. Would you have some time to just, talk to him or whatever?" And typically when that happens, right, which has happened one other time, like you reach out to the person and excuse me, you have a conversation and you can kind of tell like, yeah, okay, they're not really putting any effort into it, or like they just like, Bitcoin or something.
Right.
So the Kid and I had a conversation, and it was clearly obvious right away that he has a strong passion for the markets. He had, the early semblances of a strategy that he was deploying, and the typical shortfalls that we all experience. And so, when I noticed his seriousness about potentially having like a mentorship kind of relationship, we just continued it, and it's been several months since then, and yeah, so that's how we met, and we've been kind of hanging out here and there, and he's busy trying to get what he needs to get done to get into some fancy college somewhere here soon. But really cool to just see somebody so young, passionate about the markets. And
Well, so how did you get that head start then, Kid? Because I gotta say, man, when like most of the people I've seen starting out, and I know when I started out, I didn't have a semblance of a strategy. I would have been one of those people that Flary would have probably said no thank you to.
Yeah, honestly, I feel like, well, in order to start, like nowadays, I think it's a lot easier than it used to be because there's a lot more content creators out there and stuff with like, I don't know, just like content, and also like people trying to like hype it up and be like, oh, the allure of day trading, you can be like financially free, have all this money and stuff. So I found just like this super stupid, funny guy who was just like, he pretty much looked like he could have been me but older, right? And he was just explaining how like, oh, I was in your same position, like, the classic thing. And then he just made a really good boot camp, I think. And the difference between his and everybody else's was it focused a decent amount on like psychology. Like every other day, it was like one video was like a more like strategy video, one video was like a more psychology video, which I like talked because like I would talk with my dad throughout like my learning process, and he thought that was really interesting as well because he like understood the importance of like mental strength, but I didn't know like yet at that moment that like it would be such a big part of trading and like So hard.
We've talked about that too on previous podcasts about like the difference. So like when I kind of started, you had to really like scour the internet for good content. And one of the things that we talked about recently was that I think one of the shortfalls that people like you have is that there's too much content. Like, you know, we gave the example of like go on YouTube and Google or search like the opening range, and you'll get 1,000 videos on how to trade the opening range. None of them with like really any significant edge, probably, or outline of a process. And you have to like so your challenge is filtering through too much
Right.
information and too much lure and the guru furu kind of like babble that's out there, and trying to find something that's worth like building from. And it's interesting, like you right away mentioned that like the barrier of entry is actually easier for you because there's so much content and so much like gravitation to, you know, trading and the prop business and all of the stuff that's going on in
Can
whatever
we
online firms.
can we name the group? I mean, if it's got good content out there, I mean, I would love to shout their names out. Whoever that
It's
channel
just
was.
it's just TJR. Like I mean, you could shout him out, but like when you actually look at his stuff, he's kind of childish, but I think it's pretty funny.
Hey man, if
So
you like them, man, that's cool, man.
yeah.
I'm not gonna judge. Bear, this looks like you jumped in too. Good to see you, dude.
Oh yeah.
All right, so you said you've been talking kind of with your dad about some of this stuff too. Like, did he have any experience in this field, or did?
No. He has like no experience whatsoever in trading, but he's like, I mean, obviously he's smart, but my dad's like an engineer, so I would just talk to him about like all my problems and stuff, and he would like slowly like walk through them and like figure out like all the ways to like kind of like get around the hurdles. So he's definitely been like a good help, but kind of more just like, oh, like I want to tell somebody, or like I want to like, get my thoughts out of my own head so I can like get something going.
It's funny that you mentioned the engineer because I'd imagine the engineer is probably really good with the technical aspects of things, maybe helping you like work through a strategy. But how does he with like the mental aspects of things? Like, does he have any good insights into like some of the psychologies of like why you're doing or why you make the same mistakes that you make, or some of those maybe kind of things that you deal with?
Yeah, well, we would talk and just like, I mean, like the first thing to solving every problem, I mean, in my eyes at least, is like figuring out what the problem is. So
Right.
like we would just like sit there and be like, okay, like what's going on? Like, am I over leveraging? Am I over trading? Like, what's going on in this particular moment? We'd figure it out. We'd start like just walking through like each step super long, which like I just struggle with. I'm like the kid who's like, oh, it's like 4 plus 3, it's 7. Like I wouldn't even write like the 4 plus the 3, but
Yeah.
no, my
Screw
dad
that.
like slowly like does every single thing, which is better because I'm not like skipping ahead and like, oh, and just blowing more accounts or something and just like getting too far ahead of myself. So we would help like put things into frame and be like, okay, it's like long term and I got to just be consistent a little bit every day, stuff like that. Just like solving the problems for what they really were, and not just like, oh, I just do the same thing every day. Let me just go on, gamble, whatever.
Almost sounds like he was building a
Right.
process.
Right.
Exactly.
It's just gonna throw that out there.
So was that before
Mhm.
your influence, Flaherty, or was that after your influence?
Like me building the process,
Yeah.
or, well, I mean, I've started building a process like a super long time ago and just like nowhere near built yet, probably. But
Never is
I
done.
mean, yeah, exactly. It's never done. But right now, I have like a good base of what I try to do. But I think the most important thing is just sticking to like the same thing. Like I've just been doing like mainly some ICT concepts, just like the same, like whatever, whether it's like fair value gap, inverse fair value gap, whatever. But just doing the same thing every day and like seeing it every day in the markets has been able to like help me like confirm that like, oh, this is a real thing. Like
Hmm.
if this when this happens, this actually does happen afterwards, or like something like that.
Goddamn, Flaherty, did you get to him before he started strategy hopping? Because if you managed to interrupt that cycle,
I mean, a little bit. That was a big piece of what we talked about initially. So, like when we first started talking, the first thing I did was I said, like, what are your trades? What are your
yeah,
setups? And I think if I had that answer recorded, it was probably like, well, like when it does this, I actually think you said something about like, I see a candle go down really fast, and then if it goes up really fast, and so like you kind of like could vaguely describe what you wanted to see, but you couldn't explain it in a sentence or less. Like really, like it was just kind of like a descriptor of a feeling that you saw or an impulse that you liked. And what we started working on right away was, okay, well, let's define that. Like, keep taking the trades that you're taking, but then, you know, he was taking screenshots and things like that for his journal, which was amazing. Again, like so far ahead of where, you know, at your age, man, like just unbelievable. So when we say, okay, we'll just go back and review it and then start to say, okay, well, what did you see there? And can you define that? Can you write the 4+3, even though you already knew you had a winning trade and the answer was 7? And so we started kind of reverse engineering a strategy, and then, you know, tweaking it from there and just like having conversations about it. But, you know, he was already journaling, had a feedback loop, but was probably, in my opinion, struggling to define why his winning trades were winning trades, or what an A+ like setup looked like for him, or really like what his playbook was, you know, like ABC. Like, here's the setups that I want to see. And that's kind of where we started. And I would say where we sort of evolved into after, you know, we kind of put that project, you know, on the shelf and, you know, continue to work on it, was the emotional side of the game, which it's interesting to see that, like, you know, the kid's already like at that stage of dealing with some of the things like over leveraging or
Right.
being up stuck, or, you know, just tilting and all those things that happen, or like, you know, day one funded account, or, you know, like all of these things that you do that, you know, again, I think one of the biggest benefits that I can offer to somebody like this is to just skip the stuff that I've already done, right? Like let me, and we before you hopped on, we were talking about this. Like, my whole goal is to just like save you time. If I can do anything that saves you time and pain, it's a benefit to you. You don't need to be a carbon copy of what I do, and quite frankly, you shouldn't be, and you probably wouldn't be even if you started there. Like, be an inspiration to ideas and trade theses and setups, but really just be a save some time, like a, you know, let me be the stumbling block that you don't have to do. And so that's like a lot of what we've been working on over the past little bit.
So who got you involved in journaling? Like, I want to know. I want to go shake that guy's hand.
I honestly, okay, there's a different guy I watched. His name's like Tom Trades or something. He's this Australian dude, and I liked him a lot because I was born in Australia,
Yeah.
and I was like, oh, that's interesting, right? And I ended up buying his course. I think it was like maybe $100 or $100 a month or something, right? And he was like super psychological based trading. Like, he had like a very well defined strategy. It's like a tier 1, tier 2, or tier 3 break of structure or something. Like, he has all these different things.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like just on my phone the other day, and I saw that he was on like a 16 trade win streak, like for the last like 16 days, and like he's just like insane. And so I was watching him, right, and he would say that like, oh, the only difference between like whatever, like some stupid cliche thing, and then it was like, oh, you just need to start journaling. I promise, you just need to start journaling. And then I was on Top Step at the time on like I don't even know if it was a funded account or like their practice account that they have on Top Step. And you can journal. Like, if you go on the thing, they have like the weekly calendar. You just click on the days. I would take screenshots, post them into the like the calendar, so I could like go back and click on them all. And then I would like write how I was feeling, not like what I was seeing necessarily, because I could see it afterwards, but I can't go back and like, oh, what was I feeling during that moment, and like get it right. So I would write down like how my emotions were affecting me, and like, oh, like my brain was itching and like telling me to like buy with like 30 lots or something, you know, like if that was happening, and just like be honest about it so I can learn.
Crazy how powerful those urges can be, huh?
Yeah.
Bear, you started to ask a question. I'm sorry.
I was going to say, I like that journaling platform that's built in there. It's been really handy for me as well.
I really like the one that TFD's put together too, with the way they got the tagging of their trades, and like you can even do like trade setups, and you've got like this whole process that walks you through for like the start of your day.
So I actually did have a question before that, and that was just there's some controversy around, how much can you learn from somebody else's mistakes versus, a lot of these mistakes as you go through the learning process, you have to make yourself. Have you kind of experienced some stuff where, Flurry warned you, hey, watch out for this, don't do this, and you've had to, take some of those steps? Or
Yeah, I mean, all the time. Right now, I'm at the point where like I know what to do, right? Like, I just know what to do every time. I know what to do. Everyone's told me what to do, and what they've told me is right, but I just can't do it. Like, I'm kind of struggling with the like, oh, I need to actually like put this into the works now. So currently, like, I don't even have a funded account right now. I'm just like trade on a practice account. I've been like waking up every day, working on like max, maybe like 3 trades. Try to hit one trade that's at
Nice.
least like 80 to 100 points on NQ in the morning. I try. It's hard. Some day, like with this
Yeah,
price
it's hard.
action the last few days, it's been a yikes. But like, yeah, I try to do like low, like sometimes I do one contract trades, which I would never do because I hated it so much. But
I hate
sometimes I
one
do it
contract.
because of how much I hate it. It makes me have to like learn and like have the mental strength to sit there and be like, all right, hit TP, I'm up like $30, yay! Like, yeah, it's hard.
Dude, just that, so much growth. Can you
I
imagine being
I know.
this young and to be able to have this much passion for the markets? Like, dude, you're just so far ahead.
You gotta get him in
So
the Discord
far.
because he needs to be playing on M period too.
The M period. Yeah, he might smoke you guys.
Oh, he would. Wow.
Um,
But we were because we've been throwing in some fun challenge ones in there too, where it's not just get the most points, like to work on stuff, like kind of similar to what you're saying there. Like the last one we did was the 0 points challenge. Whoever finished the most trades closest of 0 was the winner.
Scratching.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah.
Oh,
So when you first kind of joined, we jokingly called you the Klondike Kid, but we ended up dropping the Klondike, which was a reference to the fact that he was predominantly trading gold. Which
yeah.
again, like I meet the kid and he's trading multiple minis of gold, full size contracts of gold, and I'm like, dude. But now you just heard him talk about trying to catch 100-point runners in NQ. So we had to drop the Klondike and just go with the kid. But can you tell us about like what that transition looked like? I mean, nobody forced you to. Like we showed you NQ, obviously. Like not that like you didn't see it before in some of the content, but what do you like more about NQ? What brought you to gold? Like, what was that journey like? And I assume that some of the people that you learned from in the beginning got you into gold. And how was the transition and how are you liking NQ or the similarities, differences?
Yeah, so like at the very start when I was just like practice account, trading view, just like don't really know what I'm doing. I was gonna trade obviously like Nasdaq and ES. But there's like that like 10-minute delay thing or something. Like literally it was like there was the 10-minute delay on it and I didn't want to be behind in time, so I was like, well, I'll switch to something else. And then I started doing like Forex, started doing uh like Euro USD obviously. I just like messed around a little bit, didn't really know what I was doing. And then I traded like USD JPY for a while on some funded accounts like way back when. Didn't really know what I was doing, just losing money on purpose. It felt like it was terrible. And
We've all done that.
yeah, and then from there, that Tom Trades guy I was talking about, he's like the Asia session gold king. Like he just every day, same thing, same time, and because he's like in Australia, Asia session's probably what like I think it's like 11 a.m. or like a reasonable time, not
Right.
like the middle of the night or whatever. So I started trading gold, and then I actually tried like trading at night too to like replicate what he would do while I was watching his thing, and then I was like, I don't know if that works for me too much because I would get like the way I would trade is that I would like trade like I was scalping, like I would get these tiny moves right, but then there like wasn't enough volatility because I would trade at the wrong times and like I
Yeah.
don't know, it was a mess. But and then I started trading like Nasdaq a little bit, like here and there, started testing it out, and I was like, whoa, this moves fast. I'm starting to like this because like I can make more money here, and I of course nobody thinks about losing money. And so I was like, oh, this is great. And yeah, I mean, it's a lot harder, obviously, but I like how, like, well, for gold, you would use like DXY correlation, which is like the dollar index because they're inversely correlated. And then like for like NQ, you use ES because they're correlated and you can use like SMTs and stuff. So it's like similar, but I liked how I saw so many people do it because there was just so many people I could learn from. If
What
that
do you
makes
think
sense.
about YM then? Have you traded that one yet, or
Don't you
looked into
dare
them yet?
try to get him into the
Oh, come on,
YM
YM's
streets, dude.
YM's
So-
good,
Stop
man.
trying to
YM's
recruit
good.
volume in the YM.
Need
Yeah,
some
he
he
friends.
doesn't
You
need
want
to.
me to be
He
the
doesn't need
liquidity?
to grandpa trade.
Yeah, I bet, man, the thing moves too. You want your
I don't
100
even know
points? It's pretty
what
easy.
is that.
Your
It's
process
Dow.
should be agnostic
Oh,
to the markets. So
Amen.
Mhm.
Amen.
It moves like NQ, but it's the quarter of the point value, so
yeah.
it hurts a lot less when it goes against you.
that's true. So you transition into NQ, we'll say predominantly, but the funny thing I heard you say earlier was, I try to get like an 80 to 100 point trade, but you also said that you were scalping gold.
Right, right.
So,
Yeah.
I mean,
The opposites.
is that a product from our conversations? Is that an influence from me, or is that just something you discovered organically through your setups and then journaling and watching like we'll just call it uncaptured equity of some of the trades? Like, so you're entering a trade, you're out for 7 points, and then you watch it go 100, kind of thing. Like, what did that look like? That now you're waking up and trying to look for like what sounds like positional, like intraday positional type trades from, you know, uh, scalping NQ can be anywhere from, like 3 points to like, 10 or something like that. But it sounds like it's much different than when you started.
Banks wants to know too if he's found silver yet.
Oh God.
I had seen silver, yeah, but I don't really
Silver's
trade it too
wild.
much. Yeah. I think like at the start I like didn't really think it was possible. Like it was like you see the guys like, oh, 10 RR on whatever trade, right? And you're like, oh my God, how did he like know? I just felt like I couldn't do it, like for some reason. Like I was like they all got it, but every time I do it, like it just won't work. Like it doesn't work for me or whatever. And then eventually, like I would have just like done it and like made a trade on probably a practice account, and I'd be like, okay, it worked, right? Like this is new. Like usually it's like, oh, okay, I think it's gonna go up, so let me do down because I'm always wrong or whatever. You know what I'm saying? But like, yeah, there's been a time of that, but yeah, it was just like I got stuck. I was like I didn't realize I could actually do it, and then I started doing it, and I was like, whoa, like this is crazy. Like the other day, I sent a picture to like the group chat that me and Flary are in, and it was like I just did like tons of analysis. It was like kind of over the top anyway, but I had like a 250 point trade on a practice account with like 3 micros. And I was like, dude, I could like a couple months ago I wouldn't even thought like how did I like predict that? How did that even work? But now it's like, okay, like I understand the process, and I drew some like flimsy little trend lines around it, right? That were going down, and I was just like, well, if it breaks out of the trend, I'll just stop and I'll still make a ton of money. Like it's like, yeah, it's just I didn't think like I didn't put everything together. Like, when you have an A+ setup and every confluence is hitting and you're just like, oh, this is amazing. Like I didn't have that. I had I think it's going down, so let's say it's going down.
Oh, so the confluence is the missing piece that you kind of sounds like you found.
Yeah, I would say like when everything just aligns and you're like, okay, like I actually like believe it's gonna go down more than just like, oh, like that candle's looking funny, let's just sell, right? Like
Right, right. It's the eliminating all of the bullshit trades that are in places that don't mean anything, don't matter. It's getting rid of all that crap.
Well, it's honestly really cool for me to hear you say this because we haven't had this conversation yet, but it almost sounds like you're saying from developing your process and clearly defining your setups and tracking your trades, you started to realize that you were leaving something on the table. Therefore, you adjusted your strategy based upon the feedback that you were getting from actually having a process and a solid feedback loop and all that. Not that you just went, I was a scalper and now I want to try to be a, positional trader, or, I went from scalping to trying to get 100 points on a runner. You actually just kind of came to the conclusion through doing the work and building your process that your trades and your setup actually had more EV in it than you were actually taking. Like you were selling yourself short and you learned that. I mean, is that kind of what you're saying, or?
yeah, pretty much. I would make a trade and I would get like a few points, and then I would close my whole position and see it just like consolidate a few candles, and then I would end up like, oh, I'm in like the same exact short. It's like, well, why didn't I just hold on and like maybe take out one contract or something? It's just like I could have minimized the risk and then like put my stop loss to break even, and now it's a free trade. Like I have no risk.
Right, right.
But instead, I'll
Very
be like,
cool.
oh my God, I'm up $200. Let me quickly cancel out, and then it goes up a little or something, and then I'm like, oh, let me enter again, because then I'll just start like over trading, and I'll get on a roll. Like I promise you, I will. I'll make a lot of money, but it won't last for long because I'll just like get extremely emotionally exhausted and just like start making a bunch of stupid decisions and sizing up for no reason. Like I've had days where it'll be like on the top step ones, you want to make like what 1,500 a day because you don't want the whatever, I forgot what it's called, but
Consistency.
I,
Consistency.
yeah, exactly. I would be at like 1,200 like $1,200 on the day, and I'm trying to get to that 1,500 or whatever, and it's like, okay, now I just like sized up to like a 15, 20
Because I just need 3
micro. It's
points
like,
on
yeah,
this.
yeah.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, and then you just see the longest downwards candle you've ever seen in your entire life. And you're like, well,
Ask me how I know.
yeah,
I think we've all
yeah.
been
Like
there.
there have been some moments where I was like, I've been like in the call and like with the guys in the morning when I'm like a day I don't have school or something, and I'll be like, well, like I just like blew a funded account, and like I'm just like sitting here like, okay guys, I'm gonna hop off for the day, like later, and like nobody knows. But then I'll like text Blair afterwards and be like, oh, like I messed up, blah blah blah. But like I don't know, it's kind of like embarrassing because obviously I don't want to like be portraying myself to like you guys and like all the good traders as like, oh, I'm blowing accounts all the time or whatever, right? Because I don't want you to like think I'm an idiot and have no idea what I'm doing. But then at the same time, I also have to be honest because like if I'm not
Well-
honest, then I'm not gonna learn, right? So
If you came in here and didn't tell us you were blowing accounts, and we would know you
We'd
were.
know you
being-
were full of
yeah,
it.
Yeah,
we would
yeah,
know you're full of
exactly.
shit.
Like,
We've
yeah.
all blown accounts. Every single one of
Yeah.
us in this room has.
Well, I got to the point recently where I was just like, I like knew I was gambling and I knew I was going to gamble, so I had to completely rewire my brain because I had been like doing the, oh, like scalping works kinda, right? But then also the positions I take work kinda, right? But like I didn't stick to just doing one thing. It's like either I can just wake up every day, hit a little scalp or something for like a couple $100, or take the couple $100 loss and step off and just like walk away, right? Or I could just wake up and make like 1 or 2 good trades also and just have it go for a long time and then step off, right? But what I was doing was neither. I would make some scalps, make some good trades, and then keep trading and keep trading and keep finding every possible setup I could. And then it would just be like, well, I got either up stuck or I was down and I thought I could get to break even or whatever. Like it's just the classic, right?
So
It's just
talk to me about rewiring your brain. Like there's kind of such a massive like nugget in there that you just kind of glossed over, but that's something that I think a lot of us work on for years. Like, what was that process like for you?
okay, so interesting enough, I did like something physical to rewire my brain mentally. So this is just like something about me. I just really suck at like jogging. Okay.
Yeah, me too.
I'm just bad at jogging. Like as a little kid, my parents would be like, yep, he would sprint as hard as he could. And then I would be out of breath. I would sit there and be like, wait for my parents to catch up. And then, okay, I'm ready. I'm sprint again, right? And then stop, right? And I couldn't just do this thing where I would just like consistently do like a little bit over time, right? And I could notice that like in my trading as well. It's like I would either go all in or I would just like do nothing at all, right? And so I was kind of struggling with that. And so I started running, right? I started jogging literally to
I'm
like
not doing that.
force myself. Oh yeah, I know it sucks so bad. It's the worst. Like it's
I'll
my
find
least favorite thing
something
to do.
You can do it, Kyle. You can do it.
It's my least favorite thing to do, but I love to do it because it makes me like you got to be able to do hard things. Like
Yeah.
I saw something and it was like, oh, if you could like build your character and like do whatever you want, you wouldn't set yourself like an easy life because then your character would be trash, right? Like
Yeah.
you need to put a bunch of obstacles in your way so you can get past them. So I started taking like cold showers, just like all the stuff, just stuff I hated the most. And now like, bro, I don't even hate it anymore. Like I can tolerate it.
Right.
And then like, dude, everything's better. Like I walk outside and it's freezing, right? And I'm not even that cold because I've already had a cold shower and stuff. Like it's just little things that have helped me like build up my mental strength to like then go over to like trading. I can like right now at the point that I'm at, I can just like be confident right in the morning, have a plan, know exactly what I'm doing, and then just try to stick to that the best I can. And that's what I've been doing on like the practice accounts. And then soon my goal is to like just buy one, pass it, right? Scale it up, get like a smallish payout or something, buy another one, right? Build it up. And then eventually I'll get to 5, hopefully, right? And then I would just make like, okay, I only need to make like $200 a day.
Mhm.
Maybe if like, that's the consistency rule. But like if you make $200 a day, it's $1,000 a day on those accounts. Like you can scale up pretty
adds up
quickly.
quick,
You can go
yeah.
from $1,000
So-
month to 10,000 really easy. So
You talked about that process about, you get past a certain number of trades and then you just start seeing everything's an entry, and just you hit that downward spiral snowball. Have you kind of quantified for you how many trades that is, or does it kind of depend on, sleep, everything else?
honestly, it does depend, but it like some days it's kind of different because like right now, like obviously like the market conditions have been crazy. It's just like, well, sell at the morning, just click sell, you'll be fine, right?
Right.
But
Have you kind of quantified about how many trades you can take before you go into that emotional trading state where you slip into gambling?
it kind of depends because like sometimes, for example, I'll like be trading like with literally one contract and I'll just like buy, right? And I do use it as like a feeler position. And then like let's say it goes up and then like starts going down a little, okay, like buy, buy, buy. And eventually throughout like the really like one trade that I took kind of, I'll have taken like what 10 trades, like it'll say, right?
Right, as you scale in,
So
scale out.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So honestly, probably like I don't know how many actual trades, but I would say like two trades of oversizing gets me
Like a
every time
sequence. Yeah.
because I can no because one trade
That's
it'll
because he's
always
taking
do
two
good.
trades and like 5
Yeah,
contracts in
yeah.
minis.
It'll be like
I'll tell on you. I know his.
Yeah.
I know his.
Oh, yeah.
History isn't just boring names and dates. It's weird, messy, and full of what were they thinking moments. The Buck Starts Here dives into the financial fiascos, questionable deals, and outright chaos that helped build America, $1 at a time. We mix in serious history from a fresh perspective, real, deep dives into the numbers and the moments that shaped the country, without the boring lecture. From presidential blunders to almost states, and the time an international war almost started over a pig, we break down the key events that made, and nearly broke, the nation. It's the fascinating, untold history you won't find in the textbooks. Subscribe to the Buck Starts Here podcast for a deeper look at presidential history that's anything but dull.
Longtime fans of the show should be familiar with the lender formerly known as Sue Pullen, and I'm pleased to announce that she's back, fresh off a rebrand and ready to help as Sue Mackey. Sue is a certified mortgage advisor at Fairway Independent Mortgage, an equal housing lender who focuses on finding the right product for you and your needs. She has over 20 years of experience helping thousands of homeowners. Whether it's purchasing, refinancing, or even a reverse mortgage, Sue will help. Sue's licensed in 36 states now, so reach out and let Sue Mackey it happen for you. The best way to reach her is just give her a call at 520-977-7904 or in an email, spullen@fairwaymc.com. Fairway Independent Mortgage has an MLS number of 2289. Sue Mackey has an MLS number of 206048. That email again, spullen@fairwaymc.com, and that phone number is 520-977-7904. Shoot Sue an email and let her know she needs to update that address.
So he used to show me his trade logs, and his daily like actual trades was north of 30, and I would say
that's
he was
also
more
me clicking like buy throughout the thing sometimes.
But
So
you're still more in your scalping ish sort of like stage and not super defined process. And this was something we talked about a lot. Like I told him like if you can find 30 trades in the market, God bless you. But then you're a scalper, so you need to be able to have the discipline of a scalper because there's not 30 opportunities in the setup that I've seen you sort of show me a day. So if 30 of those are you're finding, let's just say 10 of them are good, and you need to filter out the other 20, and then of the 10, like maybe some are A plus, some are whatever. But historically, when you start getting into that like 30-ish number of trades, like let's just say even north of like 15. There's usually a DM later on that follows. Again, like just to kind of tell you from our experience. So, but the maturity thing is like without even really having a conversation about it. Now you're sitting here talking about I want to find 2 to 3 good opportunities a day. And so, it's like it's cool to just watch this evolution. And, again, it's not like I'm pushing you to do any one thing. Like I've suggested some of these things like, hey, if you keep taking 30 trades a day, I guarantee you're going to get a haircut. Like you walk into the barber that many times a day, you're going to walk out looking like I do. Like,
well, and then the problem was as well is like I would take like the scalps, right? And then let's say I'd be in like a couple $100 profit. Like I should definitely have taken the profit. I'll keep moving my TP for some reason. It's like, well, if I actually use my brain, I was in a scalp, right? Not like an A plus or whatever, right? And it's like, why am I trying to make this something it's not? And then like on the other trades where I'd be like in the 3 micros, right? I'd be up like $100 or something, and I instead of like moving my stop loss or up, right, and then like being conservative, right, I would just be like, oh, I'll close the position because I don't think it's actually going to go down further. So I like didn't really know what I was I just hadn't defined the process. I wasn't able to trust my process because I didn't know that it worked.
Yeah. But it sounds like you're starting to see that now.
How well would you say your process is defined today based on some of the work that we've done together?
I'd say pretty good. I tend to do like generally the same thing. Like, so I have some indicators that do it for me, which is super convenient. And one of these guys I follow on Instagram, he's like some stupid college trader kid. He made this really nice indicator and like shows all the different time zones. So it's like, I showed it to you, Flurry, but it's like, I don't know why I can't think of any of the names, but it just shows like all the different time zones, and it'll show like
the New York session.
Yeah,
or
like
the,
exactly.
Oh, the
right?
quarterly theory one?
Yes, but it shows like every session, like
Yeah, true New
like
York Open.
Auckland and like all these like weird places you've never heard of, right? I mean, obviously I've heard of them, but just like you'd think they don't have like
It's New
much
Zealand, right?
gravitational pull. Yeah, exactly. You'd think it doesn't have like much pull or like much like because it doesn't have a lot of liquidity or whatever. But then you're like, okay, well, it actually like passes through these zones multiple times and it'll like bounce off these zones. And so I've kind of been like using that. But then like I do have like the same exact thing I'll do every morning, which is like I'll just start at like the high or like the daily 4 hour, 1 hour, like work my way down, right? Just mark highs, mark lows, mark
Yep.
Asia session, London session, mark some stuff out. Just like visually you always got to get like the daily bias, right? What you think is gonna happen. I think like the number one thing I've been doing lately is like my bias doesn't mean a lot to me, if that makes sense. Like I'll say like, oh, I want it to go up, or oh, I want it to go down today, right? But it's like what I want, or it doesn't really matter, does it? Because who knows what's gonna happen, right? So I feel like a very important thing about trading isn't like, oh yeah, I predicted that it would do this. No, is I was able to adapt based on the market conditions, and I was be able
It's
to.
less about
yeah.
my bias is down and more about if we get to this point, this is what I want to do. If it gets to this point, this is what I want to do. You kind of have the conditionals, right? I think that's kind of the place you want to be at.
How good. How good.
So, dude, this is insane, man.
We're pumping your tires, and you're telling us the good. You know, we have a thing that we do on here that's like good, bad, and ugly. So let's talk about some of the ugly. You know, so you've gone through several evaluations. You've had funded accounts. You've gotten to a payout. I think your first payout since you and I started talking. What has that been like? You know, and obviously you mentioned that you don't currently have any funded accounts. Obviously you're not trading live capital because you're trying to, you know, go this route of, you know, raising capital through prop firms or whatever, online prop firms. Yeah, I'm going to call it a prop firm for all the weird people out there. What has that been like, you know, going from what I expect you'll say is like, you know, passing an evaluation is quote unquote easy, right? Because you probably have a strategy for that doesn't look like your XFA or whatever strategy, but you're still blowing funded accounts. Like, just talk about that, you know, psychological battle. What does it feel like? How does it feel different? Like, let us into that world a little bit, because I know it's been a struggle for you.
Yeah, so I started off having like absolutely no idea what I was doing, right? And then I was watching like TJR, right, who is the guy with the boot camp, and he has his own. I don't know if he's like he's not the main owner or whatever, but he has like a majority part in this prop firm. It's called like One of One Funding, and I don't know, they're honestly a little shady. Like I never got a payout. I never got to the point of a payout, but I've heard like some things where they like haven't been the best, but I like, because I had heard that in the moment, and I was like, oh, like I'll still stick with them. It's okay. And I was buying like these $6,000 accounts of like capital, and it cost me like $55, which is pretty equal to the Top Step, but just not like the capital that comes with. And then I would like pretty much fail pretty quick. Like I would make a little money, lose a little money, whatever. I would mess around, but it was kind of just like understanding, like working in the process, like getting to like know what everything was. Like I was still like learning, right? And then after that, I would buy like the more expensive accounts because I thought I was ready. Like I would like buy up, right? And obviously like just blow those too because I still had no idea what I was doing. And then after a while of that, I just got like fed up. I was like, okay, I need to try something new. Like that's not working for me, obviously. Went back to Sim for a bit. Then found Top Step, which was just like the nice, like cheap option kind of. Like I just liked how I didn't have to even pay like the majority of the money if I didn't pass it anyway, right? So then it became really easy for me to pass the accounts, which was bad actually. Like in hindsight, it's bad because I would just like,
You're not trading it in a way that's sustainable. You're just trading it to pass.
yeah, no, exactly. The first payout I ever got, it was like, if you look at the XF like the Express version, it would be like made $1,000 this day, lost 800, made like 1,200, made 1,400. Like at one point I was up like a few like thousands of dollars, like $4,000 or something on my Express, and I was like, oh man, I'm looking at like a 2K payout here, and then boom, in one day lost like 2K. Like it was just because I was trading with such like a large amount of capital, and or I mean not a large amount of capital, just minis. I was trading like what,
Large amount of
3 minis or
oversized.
something. Yeah, exactly.
Oh god,
I just,
3
like,
minis.
Yeah, like
Wow.
I was just sending it, but I was scalping. I wasn't hitting like these crazy like banger trades, but it was like, oh my god, it says 200. Let me X out and then click another button. Like I just kind of like was impulse trading, and I would also use a lot of intuition as well. That's what I used to do at the start. Like I would purely pretty much intuition trade and like trade based off like candle behavior and like, oh, like that candle like was there, but now it's here, so that'll show me that, like, if that makes sense. So I would
Right.
kind of just like not necessarily be like, oh, this inverse fair value gap and this order block. Like I wouldn't have like the specific things. It would just be like what I'm like seeing, which was really hard when I first started talking to like Larry, and it was like I don't know how to even explain to him what I'm doing because I don't know what I'm doing.
Right,
And
right.
so that was like a really, really hard part. And then once I kind of like understood a little bit, then I would still have the funded accounts, right? And I would pass. I would make $1,500 one day, like $1,400 the next day, and then like $100, and I would pass. Or like I remember I sent one to Flary, and it was like I was 25 cents away. It was like, anybody need a quarter? Because I was 25 cents away from passing the account. I'd made 1,500 and 14.99.75 or whatever. Like I had just full. It was either I was gonna pass or I was gonna blow it, pretty much, right? And then I would pass, and then after that it would be like, okay, like I have one account, or even like I had multiple. At one point I had like three accounts passed. I had like 4 accounts passed at one point. And it would just be like, all right, time to wake up. And I remember I had a morning where I didn't have school for some reason, like it was too cold or something. I don't even know.
It was a
And
Friday.
yeah. And I had
Oh, not a
instantly
Friday.
blown my account. Instantly. Like I had like 2 Express or like 3 Express accounts all gone like within a matter of seconds. I didn't even know, like I couldn't even tell you what I did. Well, actually I could tell you what I did. I gambled. But like in the moment,
What is the difference though? So is are you just carrying this like XFA gamble strategy into it? Does it feel worse than failing an eval? Like what kind of things do you go through? Like how does it feel for you when you blow an XFA? When you know what you know now versus like, blowing one, let's just say 6 months ago or something like that. Like does it hurt? Like what kind
well,
of
the problem was it meant too much to me, and I put too much pressure on myself, and that stemmed from me telling my friends. What I shouldn't have ever done was tell anybody anything. But I mean, obviously you can't take it back. So, but like the telling other people, like I saw this thing, or I was talking to like my dad, and it was like you wouldn't tell anybody something, or like you wouldn't like tell somebody something that's like important if you wouldn't ask for their advice, right? And I wouldn't ask for a single one of my friends' advice. They're all stupid. I mean, like both my
Trading-wise,
friends,
trading-wise.
right?
Trading-wise,
Yeah, trading-wise,
okay.
they know nothing, right? They know nothing. I mean, probably trading-wise, they don't know a lot, right? So the problem is like I'm like, oh, I'm up 8. Like one of my buddies, right? I would sit in class with him every day, and I would trade, and I would be sending these pictures to the group chat, like, oh my god, look what I just did. And at one point, I was up like, let's say $850 in the day, and I caught myself. I was like, yo, like. Should I lock? Because he like knew what I was doing. I was like, yo, like, should I lock myself out or should I keep going, right? And it's like,
Why are you asking
like,
him?
yeah, what am I doing?
Yeah.
Why am I asking him? Like now, obviously, I saw that, but in the moment, I was like, let me buy, sell, let me do some more. And then like I would feel really good because it's like, oh my god, like I made $1,500. Then I would explain that to them, like that's the max I could have. Like I got a max win. Like it felt literally like I was gambling. And then like my friends would be like, oh my god, like that's so cool. You made like $1,500.
And they're edging, probably
And then-
pushing
exactly.
you to press it.
Yeah, they're making $15 an hour at Dairy Queen or something. Yeah.
It made it even worse because then I have the stress. I have the stress on me every time now. Yeah, and it was
So let me just let you in on a little secret. Valeri had a little incident the other day when he was trying to get a screenshot on a really nice trade that he had and almost missed his exit, I'm told. You want to talk us through that?
Yeah, never take the screenshot first.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So we're going to talk about this 500-point runner. Is that what we're doing right now?
I think we need to. Yeah.
Okay. It's funny. So I'll tie this into like, sort of like the emotional trading side because I was talking to J-Mac earlier in the morning. We were talking over a UB trade he was working and going over some levels. He was long UB. I was long NQ from the 180 level, which, if you were in Vanta trading this week and you didn't see me talking about 180, you must not have been in the trading chat. But anyways, I was long from 180 from like 10 p.m. I call it the wake up rich trade. And, move, set your stop loss, and you see what happens. So we were up pushing the 408 cluster level, which, was the high of day from the day before that I was targeting. Took a scale out and, was right before the open, they pushed maybe 20 points to it. And so clearly I have a long bias, right? Like I want to see them break this 408. And when they break that 408, I want to see them, potentially push, significantly higher. And I thought there would be a breakout over what was like Wednesday's high at the time. So anyways, that didn't happen. They fell 20 points short. They popped up and, we know what happened that day. And the interesting thing is, I had a great average and there was a couple of levels. Obviously, you build some support on a 200-something point move on the way up. And so, I'm adding to the position and, my average is coming up and, I round tripped it. Actually took a small loss on the actual trade where I stopped out. But from the whole trade, I was net positive. And I tried to long a few more times, and I think the market dropped maybe 300 points or something like that off the open, if you count maybe like that pre-market pop or something like that. And
in the first period.
Yeah, in like the first 30 minutes. And so I was chatting with the guys, and it's funny. It was one of those things where it's like, you know what, like you were saying, like my bias was long, but my bias doesn't matter here. Like It's just time to find a position to get short. And we were below that 180 by like 150 points or something. We pulled back up into that 180, and I just like my rational mind went, okay, wait a minute. If this thing was such good support last night and it was resistance the day before, like let's just short 180.
Right.
I think I took 3 points of heat. I scaled in with a feeler 1 lot and built up to a 5 lot position. And again, in this market, in my opinion, like the stops need to be huge, like relatively large. So should the take profit. So first scales were coming out like somewhere in the like 50 to 75 point range, and then like 150. And the idea was it was a trend day, and we were holding VWAP, we were holding Dev Mid, and we should make a low in the last hour of the day. And that low was significantly lower than where we were. So, the idea is to just hold through this area, and I had some, weekly targets that were significantly lower. So, but anyways, the whole point of this is I was wrong for the first, hour and a half of the day, and I still got a 500-point trade, changing, releasing my bias, realizing what the market was doing, and shorting resistance on a down day, and was able to take a trade from basically 180, 500 points. But yes, in order to get, so I posted in there, I think, because it was at 300 points, I said we might need to make a new GIF 400-point runner. And before the 400-point runner GIF came out, I said, I think we might need to update this because I still got one. And yeah, to get the screenshot, I almost missed the exit. It did pop like, it counter rotated, which a counter rotation in this, RVOL is like through the roof.
Yeah.
It was like a 40, 50 point counter rotation. I'm like, oh, dude, this better not be it.
It looked like it was only 40 or 50 points.
Yeah. It could have been 100. But I sat through probably 200-point counter rotations in that move. But yes, I closed the trade at like plus 500 points. But a great lesson in like, you literally could have joined the downtrend after being wrong for 300 points and still caught a 500-point rotation from a relatively obvious level, using like it was overnight low, basically, like reoffer.
I think that 400-point one that I had, I'm pretty sure I got that 300 points late. Like it had already dropped 300 points before I got a piece of it. So,
I mean, you have to expand, what you're doing in this area. I was talking with another guy this afternoon about, you know, as a positional trader, especially like we trade options based on like some of the trend break levels and stuff like that. Like you really do have to just kind of like pick a spot and place your bet. Like I called it liquidity farming today. What they were doing like for the first chunk of the day, I mean, you've got high time frame players that are literally farming these like, you know, what were 10, 15 point traders. Like they're just farming their liquidity to build these positions. And if you're not adjusting to that, you're just going to be their farm. Because all they're doing is moving this market around in these like, I mean, like literally the new counter rotation is somewhere between 50 and 70 points. And it will do that multiple times. I think we traveled almost 400 points before the 200 and something point rip into the close today for the end of the month flows. Like it went 90 points up, 90 points down, 90 points up, 90 points down, and then 200 points up. So if you were trying to like pick a spot with the 10 or 15 point stop in there, like you're just giving money to kind of this and thing. So, you know, I heard the kid talk about making that adjustment too. But again, I think the same reason you need to really like the old cliche, size down and widen your stops, like size down, widen your stops. But at the same time, if you're going to widen your stop and take the same 15 point scale, you know, scaling here, like it just doesn't make any sense. So like my first TPs are like, yeah, I mean, it's obnoxious, but honestly, the 1 minute candles that I trade off a 375 volume chart in NQ sometimes, like you have to kind of like level yourself and go, well, okay, hold on, wait a minute. Okay, that's a 70 point move. It looks like what looked like a 10 or 15 point move a week ago. So it's easy to kind of get lost in what's going on right now. But that 500 point trade is a product of that adjustment, right? It's not like it's a number. It's 500 points, and that's cool. But it's smaller on relative size. The P&L is relatively the same. The result is relatively the same, and it's a byproduct of adjusting to the RVOL that the market is currently in. And really, it's the same trade. Just you just stretched it.
Can I tell you a secret, Larry?
Sure.
Like literally, I think the day that you hit that morning, I was talking to Baba and I was like, man, can we get that name tag off? Because like I'm kind of over that. Not really wanting to chase big runners like that anymore. Kind of feels. And then you post that and I'm like, shit, I want another one.
Oh god. And it should, I mean, honestly, it shouldn't be that, but like I share stuff like that because it's like it's a subtle reminder of like the market that we're in, right? Like it's you know.
I'm so thankful that I stepped down to micros at the beginning of this week.
Yeah.
I would have just had like 5 3-shot days in a row of losing if I hadn't stepped down to micros. So,
kid, one last thing for you. I just want to hear like, so your journey now, like we've talked a lot about the longevity of this. I think, you know, you're close to your college path, and we had a conversation around funded accounts and your goals, and we basically, I frankly said, would you rather make some, you know, let's just say $2,000 payout trading the way you're trading currently, which was, you know, impulsive and sort of this gambly style, or would you rather set yourself on, you know, a 1 to 2 lot micro strategy, show what your scaling plan is, build it based on math and R and all these things that we talk about, and at the end of your senior year be eligible for a $40,000-$50,000 payout that you worked 4 or 5 months to grow to? Now we know that didn't work, but it sounds like you're building that plan now from practice accounts before you even step back into the eval space. So like, I guess in closing, like what is your plan for moving forward, and, you know, the journey that you've been on, you know, with me over the last 6 months and your trading journey before that, like what is the next step for the kid?
Next step is get those college tuition loans and send it, baby.
Oh my God, dude.
No, don't do that.
Yeah.
not financial advice.
Yeah.
It kind of is though, isn't it?
No, it's not. No.
Oh,
no,
shit.
no.
Well, I think so. Where I like stopped off at the funded accounts, I was at the point where I was like, I would buy multiple like every time, because I understood the importance of like having multiple accounts so that you could set lower like daily like
The
or like
multiplier.
the lower amounts that you want to make, yeah, and stuff because of the multiplier, right? Obviously. So I was like, oh, like it's so important to like have all these accounts so that I could get like when I get payouts, they're big, right? Which was like yes, but also no, because then I would like the emotions would get to me and like it would mean so much to me. Like when I think I passed like three accounts. I passed, right? Paid the 150 activation fee for all of them, blew them like the next day, bought three more, passed them in the next like 2-3 days, right? Same thing again. And I got to the point where it was like I was almost like so fed up with my own BS. I was just like, okay, well, like I know I can do it, but then like I end up going out every day and still like gambling, or like I'll end up making like the bad decision after I get emotionally fatigued. Like I just can't help myself, right? And so I was like, well, I'm at the point now where like I'm not running low on funds, but I want to protect my funds because I don't want to keep just like throwing out money over and over. Like I have a job and stuff, like I obviously, and like I made sure to keep that job because you can't just trade and just, especially if you have no capital at all, you can't just be like, oh, I'm just going to
Smart.
trade and send it. Nah, you need like the job to support yourself. So, kept that obviously, like I make plenty enough money, but I just like, it was to the point where like, okay, like I'm now like net negative every month because I'm like spending more on funded accounts that I'm making from work because I can only work so much during school. And so I just had to kind of like reevaluate and be like, okay, like I am in this for the long term. So let's start like playing like I'm in it for the long term, right? So let's just buy like, I'm gonna have to do it the long, painful way, which is gonna suck. But that's why I've been doing painful things like running and like cold showers and stuff, because it's just to mentally train myself. So yeah, my goal is that I think on the day I chose was March 10th, was that I was gonna buy a funded account. Um and I'm just gonna probably buy one, just 150K. I'll aim to pass it in like a week to 2 weeks. Like I'm not giving myself the 3 day whatever, because the odds of me blowing it are high, but the odds of me passing it are, I mean, okay, I was about to say something that was about to be stupid. I was about to say the odds of me blowing it are high, but the odds of me passing it are also high. That doesn't make any sense. Um, the odds of me passing it are semi high. Like I can pass it, but I probably will blow at least one to get to that passed. So it's like I can just be like, okay, I'll risk it, that $50. I'll just say it's already lost or whatever, right? And then get to that point where I pass it quickly. And then from then I'm going to have to not change my mindset, but lock into the express version of myself where I take it slow and steady. Or instead I can just, which this is what I'll probably do, is just do the painful, slow route and just make like, oh, okay, I'll do like my maximum, because you can set like the limits, like the personal daily
Yep.
profit
Profit
target.
target, PDPT.
Yeah, I'll put it at like, I think I had it last time at 750, and then I'll do my loss at like 250. So on average, it's a 1 to 3, so I can have a few losing days in
Smart,
there, right?
Smart.
And then I also, so the weirdest thing ever, like I would trade that with the loss limits. I still haven't like figured this out yet because the spread for me is so bad every time. Like I had my like a $250 loss limit and I got stopped out at like 160. And I sent it to like the group chat and I was like, oh, I don't even know what happened here. But so like that's kind of really like frustrating for me, is because like, I mean, I would have
Were you
actually
in multiple minis?
no, I was in micros. Yeah, I
Oh,
was in
wow.
like, yeah, it was crazy spread. Like I have no idea what even happened. But
I've seen some big. I've seen their algos, the algos that they've got on. You can have some weird slippage with those. The
Yeah.
DLLs, the PDLLs, and the PDBTs.
yeah, that's what everybody was saying.
Okay.
Anyway.
So the plan is to take it slow.
Yeah, the plan
Smart.
is to build, and I'm giving myself time, and I'm just gonna like do the thing where like I have the 1 to 3, and then I'll aim to make like what, probably 2 to, at max, probably 3 trades a day, because I always have like the FOMO, the fear of missing out. I'm always like, oh, like, because there's so many opportunities to make money, and at any point I could be like, oh, I could just hop in a 5 contract quick, and it can jump one way and just
to get it back.
click
That's revenge.
X, and I'll make my little bit of money, but in the longevity that doesn't really work. But interesting enough, a little side topic, I've gotten to the point where like I've like been sharing this with my dad actually, and the stuff like over time, and he's gotten like pretty interested. Like he wants to start trading eventually.
Oh, is he
Which
ready to start backing you?
Yeah, which I thought was really interesting. But he was like, well, he has like,
If that doesn't give you confidence, that should.
yeah. Well, he has like big boy job and everything, obviously. But like for when he maybe gets a little bit older and he just like has some more time and stuff, because my dad has like a lot of like I don't necessarily. I mean, I kind of know where he got it from, just from like a lot of hard work and stuff and how he was brought up. But my dad has a lot of like mental strength, which has helped me because like in the conversations we've had, he's helped me like
Yeah.
like rethink about things. And also, interesting enough, I've gotten a therapist, but it's not like therapy like, oh, I'm so sad, whatever, like not like that type of therapy, but it's it's more like I've used him to better understand like my brain and how I work. So like I talked to him a lot about like how I feel like I do like the 0 to 100 thing all the time, and how like maybe like my mom seemed to think that kind of like I had been like not beat down, but like as a kid I had been like kind of like not by my parents, but like by like people around me, that I almost like wasn't special, or that like I shouldn't, like I wouldn't amount to anything, right? So then
Yeah.
and even I don't really like see that, but my mom has seen it through like stuff she's heard and like friends and whatever I had when I was going on when I was a kid.
My
And
mom
I
used to
can't
tell
remember
me that
that,
shit.
but
Bro,
that's
this is
still, yeah,
trading though, is
exactly.
it not? Like that stuff.
Oh,
But
this
it's
is
still
trading.
like it's imprinted in me,
Yeah.
and then now I have like that little thing in the back where it's like, oh, like I want to show my friend, or like I want to make the amount of money to
Right.
prove that like, oh guys, like look at me, like I am somebody, like I want to, like, you know what I'm saying? But then when when you get to the trading world, it's just like, whoa, well that'll never make you profitable ever if you do stuff like that, because it's
Dude,
just
Flair, can
yeah.
you send him the series that we did with Rich Friesen, the Trade Runners episodes? I have a feeling he might really enjoy listening through to some of
Yeah.
those.
Well, I mean, even so we've done several episodes with Sean Sawyer. He's a psychologist, and actually, I do group and one-on-one sessions with Sean, and it's that same thing. It's like, hey, we're digging through without going deep, but we're digging through like past traumas and going, okay, what is it about this that's influencing my trading behavior now,
Yeah.
and how do I work through that and
There's an
let it go.
episode coming out on Thursday with him that should have some guided meditation stuff that we did in the middle of that.
Sweet.
And that one was really interesting. That one stuck out to me because it was the exercise that we did in that was about discipline, like not giving in to the urges. He had you like freeze in a position and then like notice and feel the itches and the things that like make you want to move. Maybe you didn't get in the right perfect comfortable position. But
Urge surfing.
you're going to sit there. Yeah, we're going to feel the urges. We're going to acknowledge them, but we're not going to give into them. And it's like, it felt very powerful. It was like this moment of, oh, I don't have to click the button when I feel that urge. And I can actually feel powerful by not clicking that button. It's really cool. I love the direction you're going. I hope we get to talk to you again, man. Anytime you want to come back on here, if you ever have questions for us, please send them to us. Flary, man, great find, man. Thanks for bringing this, getting this put together.
Yeah, how cool.
You guys have anything else you want to say before I wrap this thing up?
You can do it, dude. You're
Yeah.
on the right path. You got a huge head start. You have an advantage that most don't, to have a network of people to shoot ideas off of. You have supportive family. This is a you versus you game at the end of the day, and I think you've gotten to that point of understanding it. Like, the edge will evolve. What works today won't work tomorrow. What you do today, you won't do tomorrow, or you'll do some different version of that. That part of it is, relatively, not to simplify it, but it is what it is. Like, this journey that you're going through of like the hurry up and slow down, that I'm going to take my time, dealing with the things that you bring to the table, and then wanting to impress your friends. That's the stuff that if you work on at this age, at the intent that you're doing, and to hear some of the things that you're doing with like the jogging and the intention, that's the stuff that's going to make you a rock star in this business. So I'm just, well beyond what I ever expected when we set up our first call. Happy to see, that you're making progress, and excited to see where it continues to go, and, to be a resource for it to you. So reach out to me when you get those accounts funded, like you were supposed to last time that you
Yeah,
didn't.
I will. Don't worry.
Last thing I want to say is that the biggest mistakes I ever make always happen when I'm trying to take a shortcut. So,
Yep,
Yeah.
exactly.
That last $20 or $100 to pass.
Yep, exactly.
I think that's going to do it for today's episode. So please join me in thanking Flary, the Kid, and Bear for jumping in. Remember to show our panelists some love. You can click on those links in the show notes. You can visit vantatrading.com if you want to trade with the pro every day. Visit Bandit Traders Podcast. You can stay up to date with the show. When you finish all of that, you can improve your historical and economical knowledge by checking out The Buck Starts Here. Back soon with another exciting episode, but until that day, like, share, subscribe, all the things, and have a green week.
Later.
This podcast is intended for informational and educational purposes only. It does not constitute financial or investment advice and should not be construed as such. The hosts, guests, and contributors of this podcast are not licensed financial advisors, brokers, or professionals. Any trading or investment decisions made based on the content of this podcast are solely at the listener's discretion and risk. Trading and investing in financial markets carry inherent risks, and past performance is not indicative of future results. Listeners should conduct their own research and seek advice from qualified financial professionals before making any financial decisions. The views, opinions, and information shared in this podcast are those of the individual contributors and do not necessarily reflect the views or policies of the podcast creators or associated organizations. Produced by China Shop Productions.